Welcome back to The Entrepreneur. My name is Joshua Yankovic, and this is a podcast dedicated to people who want to make a living doing what they love to do, or they are making a living doing what they love to do, like most of my guests are. If you are interested in this kind of content, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, because this stuff's going to pop off at one point or another, and it'd be cool to have you along for the ride. My next guest is a co-founder and current executive director of the not-for-profit organization MHK Music Network, a service-oriented organization dedicated to the well-being and professionalism of individuals in the arts, also dedicated to the promotion of artists and musicians in the Midwest region of the United States. He was a volunteer for the American Red Cross Service Armed Forces Division for over 10 years. He has been a part of Kansas State University's peer network for the Y.A.L.I cohort in 2016 and 2017. That led him to becoming a Reciprocal Exchange Awardee for the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program in 2018, where he facilitated training on social enterprise and social entrepreneurship in the community of San Domingo on the Island of Santiago, Cabo Verde, which is off the coast of Africa. He's also a former vice chairman of Ecumenical campus ministry at K-State. Please welcome Odanov, Eric. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be on. Happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for this episode. At this point in my life, there's never been a better time for me to start expanding on various topics. There's never been a time where I've been more comfortable. So I'm really excited to have you on the show, because I know that with what we've worked on together in the past and how we developed our friendship it seems like so long ago, even though it wasn't. And it's like, we've both grown, I'm sure. I know I've grown as a person, and I'm excited to hear from you and talk about how things have been going. Yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly. It does seem like years, but it hasn't been that long.
Right.
And yeah, just to the sentiment of, how fast time is going, you know what I mean? And, and that's one of the aspects of life, right? Someone famous once said, if you're always upset about getting older, why are you still counting? Prince said that, actually, the artist formerly known as, I should say. So, and that made sense, and which made me stop counting birthdays, So now I just celebrate life on that day.
Yeah, I like that. I haven't been celebrating my own birthday, but there's no reason not to celebrate life on that day.
To the point, and it's the significance and importance of that, because of the lives that you touch and also the lives that touch your own life, I feel. So yeah, because I stopped celebrating birthdays for some years, and then I realized that, it may be not about a number, but it's about the life aspect of it. So yeah, just happy to be here. Thanks for even inviting me or considering me to be on your podcast.
Yeah, man, as I just laid it out, you have done quite a bit that is deserving.
Appreciate that.
For a chance to talk. Oh, man, your perspective is very valuable, and that's why I knew you'd be a great guest.
Thank you.
And I'm also happy that, maybe I didn't have you on sooner, because I've figured out some things since I started doing this.
Sure.
And it's, like I said before, there's never been a better time. I haven't been this excited about a podcast up to this point, just because of where I'm at personally. Yes. And where I know and how I know how much value I know that you bring to the table.
Appreciate that. Yeah, man. It's, I guess sometimes we could underappreciate ourselves, right? And and underappreciate all of the things that it has taken for us to get to where we are now, right? Because for me, I feel, well, number one, I have no regrets in life. I know everything that has happened in life happened for a reason, to prepare me for the now.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. Well, I know nothing. First and foremost, I know no thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
But to say all that is just to pretty much say that, there's life lessons, right? And based off of each aspect of life we go through, the lesson that we really take from that experience should should mold you into what you're looking to become, looking to, and essentially we are trying to become the better us at the end of the day, right? The better you, as they say. And I know that is the importance of us being able to, live in abundance, right?
Yep, that frequency, that wavelength, that mindset, that way of life is a place of abundance. And speaking on abundance, I'm glad you brought that up, because since I began to flip that script of a world of lack and where I'm not enough and I'm not having enough, everything has been better. Like it just cascades with positive events in my life. And this also happens to be like coincides with sobriety for me, like because I'm at this point in my life completely sober. I mean, other than coffee and tea, and that's it. I mean, like I'm not, and occasionally tobacco, but other than that, like there's no substances I'm putting in my body. And I've never been like so grateful for this life I'm living than now. Like I'm actually able to fully feel things and fully understand what's going on in here. Now, on the flip side of that, it's like I have a hard time not regressing into negative, like just spirals inwardly, because just like I'm so analytical. I want to understand everything. And so I'll try to come up with solutions and reasons for things that are happening. But a lot of those times it results in a reverse egotism, which is me making myself the center of the problem and the solution. And it comes up with the same results as a big ego. Is this a reverse ego where it's like, oh, something's happening that's wrong, it must be me. And that's just like such a wrong way to live. And I'm still overcoming it. And so but I'm aware of it, and it's just like a conscious thing where I can work on it,
Sure.
Now, I know that I'm getting off here already, but I wanted to also talk to you about, so I mentioned like how you've done a lot of work internationally and with the fellowship and with businesses around the country and businesses in Kansas. How did you get into that? Like what was some steps, or maybe even like the moment that you experienced to make you realize there's got to be a change and I'm going to start working towards this?
Oh, well, that change came when I worked in corporate America for a particular entity, to whereas we as a marketing department or a group of people were, doing a marketing campaign for 4 years, in which each year the company profited $1 billion. And after the fourth year, my colleagues came to me and asked me to speak to HR about, getting more money. Like, how do we go about getting a raise? Because we really didn't have a supervisor, so that's how it would just automatically skip to HR. And essentially, based off of who was in that meeting, and basically after I presented the numbers of the achievements of how everything has basically gone up since we started implementing the ideas of marketing techniques and tactics that we thought of as a collective, they didn't even blink an eye and just said no. And when if you ever been punched in your gut, it catches you off guard. And when it catches you off guard, 9 times out of 10 takes the wind out of you. And that's the feeling that I felt after they just said blatantly no. And then after that, it was just like me in my mind thinking, I will never work for anyone else ever in my life again. Why? Because I realized all that hard work, all that dedication that I was intentionally, showing and demonstrating, but also putting forth the effort that you could see and clearly profit from, I realized that I wasn't getting none of the residuals. You know what I mean? Like, clearly this was our work, and we're not even getting pennies on the dollar based off of how much they were profiting compared to what we were making. essentially as fresh out of college, 4 years into their company. And from there, it was just, again, it was like, you know what? Started my own. So then I started looking into how to start your own company, the benefits of having your own company, more so LLC. And it was just more so, it started off as an LLC of consulting, because essentially I didn't know what I wanted to do, but based off of the research I found at that time, consulting is just so broad that even though I may do marketing one day, I can still go do, DJing another day as a consultant, but still
you're not limited to a gig. You're a one gig. You can have unlimited sources of income. Correct.
Because of the importance of it. They say a millionaire has nine streams of
minimum
income. Exactly. At a minimum. Well, you never want to limit yourself, but at the same time, you never want to do anything just for money. Because when you're just doing it for money, you're not doing it for the love that you have for whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people do things that are getting a lot of money, they're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not happy, like essentially you're going to rot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's,
that's a real failure. That's a real failure is being unhappy with what you do. That's a true failure, because regular failure is a positive thing where you recognize it's a positive thing and you just keep going.
Yeah, and learn from
on to the next one. Correct. Learn from, move on. Learn from, move on. A real failure, though, would be to experience a life where you're not happy with what you're doing.
Yes.
Where was it in your perspective where you were like, where you became happy? Was it pretty much right away when you started doing things that you like to do, or was it later where you were making money doing it?
It was immediately, actually, because when I started my own business at that time, prior to that time of starting my own business, I had already started doing side jobs. Like I was at this time, I became a food server. Okay. And I was a food server, like a tapas bar, but it was in a busy part of the city that I lived in, which was Atlanta, Georgia at that time. And it was, and then it was like, man, based off of how I'm managing my time, I'm able to make just the amount of money with these quote unquote side hustles, these side jobs, than my job that I'm working, like 50 plus hours a week at, and sometimes in some of the most uncomfortable work environments, right? Because your work environment really also plays a part in, I guess you could say, how well you succeed or how far you go. You know what I mean? Because if you're in a toxic work environment, nobody could flourish, right? It's like trying to grow flowers in a garden that is covered by a forest. Whatever's in that garden is 9 times out of 10 is not going to get the sunlight needed to flourish, right? So the environment, your work environment, is very, very substantial to how well you're able to do what you do. But aside from that, again, to your question, when I found out that I can have more time or work less hours, have more time for self, and make just as much money as I could if I worked for one company for 50 plus hours a week. So I was really happy then. Because again, it wasn't about the money. It's just to the fact that I was learning to see. It's all about seeing the energy you put forth and reaping the benefit from the energy you put forth, and and when you're doing it with others, it's not about reaping all of that benefit, but it's about reaping a good chunk of it, something substantial that you say, you know what, this was worth it, and after that time of speaking to the HR, I was reflecting that whole meeting, basically like, this wasn't even worth it. Granted how much experience I've learned and all that, that's great. And it probably came a lot faster than me, taking another route. But at that time, with me being able to show numbers, because I was a finance major, so numbers are huge for me to show numbers, and it made sense of why they just said no right away, because if we would have got into the numbers, they would have lost. It would have been in their favor, right? The numbers would have been on our side, which would have said, hey, you need to compensate these people. But they didn't want that, which is why it makes sense now. They said, oh, no.
Yeah, shot you down. So that was the turning point. And you started looking into ways to make money for yourself and do things for yourself. And that started you on that journey. And so it sounds like you, almost immediately, in my opinion, had success because you were happier.
Yes.
I think happiness just directly reflects success. Yes. If you're not happy with what you're doing, you're not that successful.
Agreed.
I don't care how much money you're making. Don't matter.
Doesn't. Not at all.
I don't care. What would you say? Would you have some advice for people in that state where they're in that corporate America, or they're in that area of industry where they know that they could do more, but they're not sure how to break out because they haven't had that hard rejection that made them made them get mad enough to step out. They haven't had that. Maybe they won't have that. So what's something that they need to hear to get them moving?
I would say something that people would need to hear is that, number one, you can do it. So all the doubts, all the fears, overcome that to know you can do it. And the way you overcome those fears and those doubts is by doing it.
Doing it. Yes. Doing it anyway. Even if you're scared, even if it might hurt, it's going to hurt. Like becoming self-aware, getting what you want can hurt, might hurt, probably will hurt.
Yes.
For example, when I stopped negotiating with myself over whether or not running daily was an option, it did it. No matter how much I didn't want to do it, no matter what time of the day it was. And I got this from David Goggins, by the way, like just following his content has changed my life in a big way. I stopped negotiating with myself, and he talks about like going to war with yourself.
Yes.
It is not a negotiation. You step into that ring daily to make those decisions despite your negative feelings about it, despite my fears about it, despite my like desire to do less because I don't want to get hurt. Screw that. I'm going to do it anyway. Even if it does get me hurt, like it's going to be better anyway. Because if I fail, like it'll be the soft failure where I know it will be something to learn from and then move forward. There's nothing that stops me but me.
Correct. Exactly. Because sometimes it's like you got to tell yourself, F you. Like, F you, get out my way. And you know what I mean? Chive on, right? That's the new saying or the new quote of the day, to move forward, chive on, keep your head down, chive on, or whatever.
Keep calm.
But to the point, yeah, in which I learned this when I was my sophomore year of college. And it was like, it's the whole aspect of that you can't give a F. You know what I mean? Like you just, because if you continue too much, you will overanalyze everything and you will forever be in your own way. Right? They always say, the only person stopping you is you. And then when you figure that out and when you realize that, then that's when it's like, okay, I have to care, but I have to make sure that I am going about it in a particular way. So therefore, I'm setting myself up for success opposed to anything else. Because what they say, if there's a will, there's a way. If there's a plan, there's a strategy. And take time out for self. Like they say, even when you're working that 9 to 5, well, after 5 o'clock comes, 6 to sleep time is when you're working on something of your own. You're right. Because again, if you dedicate your life to going to work for someone else every day of the week, and you don't set out time to do something for what you love to do, or essentially what you can see yourself doing for your own business, you'll never get there. You know what I mean? And if you continue to just go home and sit down and watch sports and watch whatever, you're giving your energy, you're giving your, I guess you could say, you're the last of yourself away,
Mm-hmm.
and you have nothing left for self.
Right.
That goes back to the self-awareness, because it's like, okay, when you get paid, you should pay yourself first before you pay any bills, they say. And the reason is because know your worth, know your value. Well, you invest in yourself. Well, how are you going to invest in yourself? Well, it starts with your health. It starts with your everyday routine. Your health is your wealth. And with your health being your wealth, okay, well, how are you going to protect that? Well, there's this thing called life insurance, and not to skip to that immediately, but
No, it's good. I wanted to start touching on that.
yeah. And, health is wealth. Well,
Because I mentioned it in the intro, and I knew there would be a moment to talk about insurance, because you're kind of diving into that industry right now.
yes.
And you're producing content that's trying to help people become more aware of it.
Yes.
So I definitely wanted to talk about that with you, about what are some things that I definitely need to know, or some myths that people assume that are incorrect.
Well, the number one myth is that it's not affordable or it's expensive, right? And that's not the case. And as an insurance broker, I have leverage to present you, the client, with multiple options. So therefore, it's you can see what's affordable for you, and I'm able to ask you direct questions like, what are you looking to spend per month? And based off of what you're looking to spend per month, with me dealing with over 30 carriers, I can present to you something in that range that is cost effective for you, so whereas it's not burdensome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another myth is that life insurance is used or held until you die. False. It's called life insurance because it's supposed to be used while you're living.
Mm.
When you talking about the end life stages, then that's when they have this thing called burial insurance, okay, to cover all those costs, which is actually known as final expense. A final expense insurance policy.
I've not heard that before.
Yeah, and again, I think the age range of that policy is like 65 or 62 years old, right? But at the same time, insurance companies know that we're living longer, right? Because a lot of people are taking better care of themselves, they're eating right, they're working out, they're not doing things every day that stresses them out, like going to a job that they don't want to go to, right? Mm-hmm. So that's some of the most common myths. What I'm finding that people don't know is that there's people that a lot may refer to as the 1% who necessarily don't even have a bank account. Why? Because they put all their money into an insurance policy or multiple insurance policies. Like, that's another aspect that people don't realize.
So our life insurance policies are like trusts?
They can be set up in a trust, but no, they're not like a trust. So what they're considered what life insurance policies are considered are more like retirement accounts, mm-hmm. or savings accounts, or
well, because you said that the 1% a lot of the time put all their money into insurance policies, and so that made me think, okay, well, that sounds like a trust, because that's what you do. That's what the 1% do with trusts. So mm-hmm. You're saying, so a trust, I guess, from what I know, is more has powers of a municipality and its own like entity. So you can have an insurance policy or a trust could have an insurance policy. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm coming from, not knowing the difference there.
The trust would hold the insurance policy, right? So the trust would hold the policy, in which the trust will make sure that the designated beneficiaries will receive said, benefits from said policy.
Got it.
Okay. Life insurance are looked upon as savings or retirement accounts because it's for the future benefit, right? Okay. The reason why the 1% put their money into the insurance policies is because it earns a different type of interest known as compound interest, opposed to you have just a regular interest that your bank account accrues, which is really nothing.
Right. It's worth. It's depreciating quicker than it's
actually increasing.
Making money.
Correct.
Right.
So with that said, you have banks who spend a lot of money on insurance policies or in the insurance industry to actually reap interest for themselves, you know what I mean, or from their employees that they insure through certain policies, right? Because with the bank purchasing that policy for you, the bank owns the policy. You just are the recipient of the care of whatever the policy provides. Like if it's healthcare, if it's health insurance, well, the bank owns that policy, whereas that bank owns that policy is collateral. You know, now whether you collateral to that policy or not, I don't know. Don't want to touch on that, but they own that policy. You're just the benefactor of the use of it, but not the end the end beneficiary, I should say. So, and with the trust aspect, yes, like you just touched on the jurisdictional bounds and so on and so forth. That's more so protection and to make sure that the will is essentially adhered to, right? Because when people write what is known as a living will, because you have a last will and testament, but then you have a living will for like our age now, that actually is known as a testamentary trust, to my knowledge, whereas it's for the now, but yet it's setting up the directives for the future of you in your life. You know what I mean? So therefore, because they say if it's not in black and white and or written down, it doesn't exist. So this is your way that actually documents what you want done and your intentions of what you're doing for the now. So, but not to veer off on that, but yeah, the aspects of another myth of life insurance would be, it's not for now, right? Well, with being 20 something years old.
Yeah. So take me, for example, I'm 28. I don't have any life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why I need it.
Well, okay. So there's two aspects of it. You have the importance of it, the importance of having insurance, but then you have the significance of it. So the importance, I'll start with the importance. The importance aspect of you having life insurance is that if something was to happen, unbeknownst, unforeseen occurrences,
right,
you're protected, right? Well, and I'm talking in a broad sense because there's many types of insurance, and I'm just saying this as if you're getting all those types of insurance. So you have, of course, life insurance, accident and dismemberment, health insurance, which is dental, vision, hearing, and of course health itself. And then you have a term policy, but to the fact that with the quote unquote younger you are, the cheaper the policy is starting off. So whereas, to do a comparable, with you being 28, getting a $200,000 life insurance policy, your monthly premium would probably be $50. $50 a month for 200, and of course I'm giving hypotheticals because I don't have my computer here. But $250,000 policy for $50 a month, whereas if you were 48, right? 48, which is still under that 50 mark, you're 48 and you want $250,000 in insurance coverage. Your monthly premium will probably be around $100, or $125. It could vary depending on your health conditions.
Gotcha. And then, so what are the benefits of that? So for me, $50 a month, it goes into an account, or how does that work?
Yes. So what your monthly premium would cover is the payout of the $250,000 if something was ever to happen, but it also will give you the aspects that you are accruing cash value. You're accruing, that's back to the compound interest aspect of it. So with you accruing that interest, essentially you could borrow from that interest. And with you borrowing from that interest, it serves as your own bank, right? Because you're not, when you say you want to borrow that interest, okay, you don't think about it as you borrowing it from that $250,000. Think about it as you borrowing it from the insurance company itself. in which a lot of these insurance companies have been around since the 1800s, if not earlier.
So I don't think most people are aware that you can use insurance policies to leverage purchases. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me and the listeners more about that?
Yeah, well, just because you take a policy out for $250,000 doesn't mean that's your limit. Doesn't mean that's your threshold, right? You know what they say, you're good as the company you keep. Okay, so basically, if you're dealing with an insurance company that's been around for ages, they have that much more money on hand for you to use, right? So all that to say, association by affiliation, right? So you find a property you wanna make acquisition of. Okay, you have two options in this instance, whereas you could go to the bank and ask them to mortgage you, or you can go to your insurance company and let them know you want to use your insurance policy and the cash value associated with it as leverage to make acquisition of a property. And and over time, based off of...
So is it similar to... I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it similar to leveraging, say, a house you already own to buy another house you want to own?
Yes.
So it's the same concept.
Basically, because it's used as collateral.
Yeah.
It's used as collateral because you have many aspects of how you can access those funds, whereas you can take a standard loan from it, and they charge a small percentage, and when you paying it back, you're paying into the insurance pool, and with you paying into the insurance pool, while you paying into that insurance pool is still giving you that interest of your interest towards the policy that you have earned or you have purchased through them.
Wow.
Okay, so it's a wash, right? It's literally a wash. Like one hand is balancing the other hand.
Wow.
Which is why they say you're paying yourself back. Like that's they say that you're being a true banker in that instance. Another aspect is getting the wash, because with you getting that wash or taking that wash out, that's from the interest that you have put in or paid in to it. And the reason it's called a wash is because it's tax free. Why? Because it's not looked upon as an investment vehicle, right? This is not for investment people. This is for long-term retirement or life savings, right? It's basically, even though you're I guess you could say accruing interest, which can be looked upon as investing, it's not set up as like the stock market, right? This of course is not going to happen overnight. With the stock market, you could get rich overnight. You pick the right stock, it goes up in one day, you just hit the gusto. Okay, that's why it's investment, because it's just unknown, unforeseen.
So what's a reasonable rate and policy that someone like me, a 28-year-old who could want to in a few years, like how long do I need to be in life insurance to use the benefits of using it as leverage to purchase property or purchase assets?
So that varies. So it could be as simple as 30 days, or excuse me, it'd be as short as 30 days. It could be as short as 6 months. It could be as short as 1 year. It depends on the carrier, right? But the time frame that you need to be in it, I say, is all your life. Why? Because from what I'm learning, you are putting yourself in a position to have your own in-house bank. With having your own in-house bank, do you need to go anywhere else for money? No, I wouldn't. Why? So you could be charged asinine rates and getting raped by them, and basically if you miss a payment, them coming to take everything. Whereas if you miss a payment with first and foremost, with your insurance company, you have what is known as flex pay. Of course, it depends on the carrier who you're going through, but you have this thing called flex pay. Whereas if you're not able to make a payment and you let them know ahead of time, they'll just roll it over to the back. Right? Exactly. They roll it over to the back, whereas it's so.
There's no bank that does that.
No bank that does that. And I got to share with people now. I found out as as someone who studied finance in school, is that insurance is the number one aspect of the financial market, and then you have banking under that. Right? Because everybody.
I have never thought of this.
Man.
Because I always thought, central banks, the banks, they control this and that.
Smoke screen.
Insurance.
For years, and I don't know if anybody or yourself has ever heard this, but they were saying, what's the number one legitimate criminal activity in the world? And the joke was insurance. Of course, this is before I got into insurance, so I could joke about that. But now there's nothing illegitimate about this. This is all legit. Tax is it's set up for us to live in abundance.
Yeah.
Because there's no law that restricts the amount of policies you can hold. Okay, in which is really in the Constitution. It says.
So say I have a family, I could take a policy for every family member.
Every family member.
And start paying into there, and then each one could be used for leverage. Each policy could be used for leverage. For a different thing. Different acquisitions. So I'm assuming the 1% are very well aware of this, and they're taking advantage of this daily. Yes, they're taking advantage of what is being afforded to them. Mm-hmm. And it's available to all of us. Available to every one of us, especially if you're in good health. If you're in good health and you're young, like I was sharing with someone the other day, if I would have known what I know now when I was in college, instead of taking that extra Pell Grant money and buying shoes and clothes, I would have bought insurance policies, whereas I would have been well over a millionaire now. And I graduated in 2004. From using policies as collateral to purchase assets that then create sources of income, you would have become a millionaire. Yes. Straight up off of just the compound interest, first and foremost. But yes, from what I was able to utilize those washes or loans from my policy to actually invest in ideas, because that's another thing. When you're going through your insurance company, you're not asked all those rigorous questions, or what are you going to use it for? When are you going to pay the money back? Like they don't. That's the bank. That's what they do, and they're hoping that you don't do it. That's why they ask all those questions, right? Not to say they throw roadblocks in the way to ask all those, why they ask all those questions, but essentially, the insurance company is not asking you all those questions. It's your right. It's your money. You have the right to access it, so they give it to you. Only thing they tell you is, if you don't pay this back, we will lien that policy. Meaning once they lien it, if something was to happen to that person, the insurance company becomes the beneficiary, not your beneficiary that you listed. That's the only downfall. But if you have the particular rider in your policy that allows you to flex pay or shift your payment to another due date or pause your payment, there's many variants out there. At the end of the day, you put yourself in a position that you have preventative measures that what is it known as a trail stop for those who do stocks, you know what I mean? Once it hits that certain limit, it gives you a parachute. Like I've never heard of any bank providing a parachute for anybody to prevent them from defaulting on a loan. Right. But with insurance policy or insurance companies, they have those preventative measures for you, and it's multiple. It's not even just one. That's what's really mind blowing, which is why, again, if I would have used all my Pell Grant money to buy insurance policies, I'm sure you and I never really even met. I probably would have never came to Kansas and all that other stuff. Just realistically speaking, but no regrets, because I had to go through all those life sequences and life chapters to get to where I am now, which is why I know how to put myself and all those around me in position for abundance. Mm-hmm. And abundance is unlimited. I can be as successful as possible And I could still get more if I help other people around me be successful too.
Exactly.
It's like there's no limit. There's no limit to abundance and the frequency of abundance. And I like the wording frequency and vibration. I like those words. So that's the kinds of words I use to describe that kinds of thing.
Yes,
but it's a level, it's a mindset, and it's a zone you live in. And as long as you think, oh, that's not for me, that's some woo-woo thing, that's something that other people do, that's something that lucky people get a hold of, that's something that only the rich are knowing about, obviously I'll never get there. Obviously. I'm holding myself back if I describe that kind of BS in my own life, where I'm limiting myself. I'm telling lies to myself. Abundance is for everyone because it's unlimited. It applies to all people everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I can access it at any time, and I can also let it go at any time. I can start living the opposite. I can let the miracle go. Mm-hmm. Don't let the miracle go. Hold on to it. Like, it's there. I can already touch it. But if I'm limiting myself by not having boundaries on myself, not having a better mindset on a daily basis where I'm flipping the script and instead of telling myself I'm not good enough, I can't do it, other people are going to judge me. Mm-hmm. I don't want to know what they're going to think if I do something that they don't agree with. I won't ever get there. I'll never get there as long as I think that way.
And, do you ever heard that positivity vibrates 4 times? I say 14, but it's 4 times greater than anything else?
No, but I like that. I like that concept or that idea.
Yeah.
I've not heard that.
Yeah, I mean, just like what we talk about now, vibes, right? Well, when someone's positive, we can feel that off top. But also if somebody's anything else, we feel that as well. Whereas that kind of puts us on, not to say on edge, but it cautions us to be mindful of what we're about to engage in or embark on, right? Hence the gut feeling,
the intuition.
Yes, because to my knowledge, and not to interject in with your statement, but the heart chakra is the highest vibrational chakra of all chakras, right? Mm-hmm. And when we have those gut feelings, that's really our heart just vibrating throughout our vessel, in which it just hits the gut in a certain way, because the gut is quote unquote hollow in a sense, right? Especially after it digests things. But it's, that butterfly feeling, and that's your spider senses. You know what I mean? And and that comes from your heart vibration, especially if you are vibrating on the proper frequency. Yeah. Because as you mentioned earlier about the 5th dimension, well, some say we're in the 7th dimension, right? We've been transitioning from the 3rd dimension since 2012. That's what the whole 2012 movie was about, to let us know that the 3rd dimension was behind us or breaking down.
All right, and if you're listening and we lost you, it's just a matter of wording and concepts. All of this stuff applies to everyone. It's just you might be wording it differently. You might be going to a different building, talking about it with different people in a different way, but it is the same freaking thing. Yes, and it applies to everyone. There is a global change going on in human consciousness, and I believe you can describe it as evolution, because I am evolving at a constant rate, as is everyone around me, and there's nothing that's going to stop it except ourselves.
That's it. I learned at 29 that there's no such thing as a man holding me down. It wasn't even 29. It was way before that. It was 23. When I learned that there's the aspect that the man was me, preventing me, then I bought my first house, 23 years old. And multiple people told me that I couldn't do it, other than one person, which was my mother. And I thank her every day, because that just catapulted me into acquiring more things. You know what I mean? And but just to the point of that statement is, the only thing that's stopping you is you. Get out your own way. Get out your own mind. And what has helped me in those instances is this thing called story medicines, which is writing things down. If it's a thought that comes out of nowhere, you want to write it down, because essentially, which is another reason why I stopped eating meat, is because the foods that we eat have a chemical reaction with our brains. And it's to the sense of sometimes we have to fast to realize what thoughts are thinking you. I say that again. What thoughts are thinking you?
Ooh, you gotta wrap your head around that. We'll say it one more time.
What thoughts are thinking you? Because again, okay, they say yeast, for instance, that we know, and you could look this up, Google it, whatever. Yeast is known to make you think that you're still hungry when you're not, which is why people overindulge or overeat. You know what I mean? Because it's the chemical reaction that the yeast has with the brain, and also the tongue of the taste buds of it tasting so good that you want so much more, which is the chemical reaction that it essentially hits your mind, that you want more, even though your belly is telling you should probably stop, or that you're getting bloated or full. So
yeah, that's in the Tao Te Ching. It talks about when you are full, stop eating.
Yes.
When you feel full, stop. And that's the way of the Tao. That's the way. The way.
The way.
That's the way, is when you're full, stop eating. And that applies to not just food. Like, it applies to so many things.
Oh yeah. What they say? Moderation.
Moderation.
What the ancient text of the Bible talks about moderation,
Mm-hmm.
and taking that 7-year period of detox away from whatever that may be, and I may be misquoting that, but I don't, I think that's I'm paraphrasing more so.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's in there. The concept is in there.
Yes, most definitely. Back to just, we all can do too much, and when we get to that point, back to the Tao, you have to stop, breathe, assess, and then respond or react, which is known as the bar.
Yeah.
Breathe, assess, then respond.
If there was a moment where your future self, say 10 years from now, and I like to ask people this question, your future self 10 years from now walked up to you to give you advice about what was going on in your life right now, what would they say?
Continue to take your time. Continue to take your time, because everything is just moving that much faster. And it's something that stuck with me, which comes back to the number 29, that really resonated with me at that point in that moment of space, which was when I was 12. My uncle told me a story of when you're driving down the freeway and you're driving 85, 90 miles an hour. He said, when you look to your left and you look to your right on the freeway while you're driving that fast, he asked, what do you see? Mind you, I'm 12, so I don't drive yet. And I'm looking, and I just tell him I don't know. He says, you see nothing. Because everything that you're passing at that rate of speed is a blur. So you see nothing. He then asked me, well, what do you think you see if you're driving 60, 65, 70 miles an hour? And I was like, I don't know, because that's still fast. He says, you see everything, because instead of you passing life by, life slowly comes up on you now.
Comes to meet you.
Meet you where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
So that. So I think that's what my future
really
self
cool.
would tell me, is going back to what my uncle shared with me, who was a Tuskegee Airman, to throw that in there, just to, take your time, no rush, because whether you're 30 minutes late or 5 minutes late, you're still late.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes into the aspects of, it's just what it is, right? There are no separation. There are no separation of degrees. It's just what it is. It's just variances, right? Whether it's hot or cold, whether it's 90 degrees or 3 degrees, guess what? It's still degrees. It's just what it is. So I say that to say, we don't have to overthink or overanalyze anything once you recognize it for what it is.
Wow. That's a huge key right there to addressing anxiety. For me, and I'm sure maybe many people, is what you just said. Because if you can remember that, it removes the need to worry about things in the moment. So I know there's different forms of anxiety, and you can be worrying about the future. You can be worrying about what's going on right now. For me, I usually my anxiety stems from the moment. I'm not so much worried about what might be happening in the future, because I always have been able to keep the mindset that some things in the future are going to be okay.
Yeah.
Eventually it's going to be fine. Because it's repeatedly happened that things turn out. Even though things can be bad and things could get worse, it will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Correct.
And so my anxiety stems from the moment of being like something happening right now that is negatively affecting me. But looking at it, like you just said, like the moment is going to be here no matter what. And there's no reason to think of it in a negative sense.
Yeah, anything for what you see it as, right? Because the only thing as we overanalyze or overthink it, we're just thinking about the aspects of what could be, what if, right? And they say if was the fifth, we'll all be drunk right now, and in sobriety you wouldn't be. To say there's this movie called Revolver. Ray Liotta's in it. Andre 3000 from Outkast is in it. Jason Statham is in it. That movie really helps disseminate the id, the ego, and the superego of the mind.
Interesting. I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's called Revolver, and I share that because that movie has helped me so much with just understanding the mind and the whole aspect of what I just shared about it being what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I remember growing up, hearing my dad say SOCKS. And that's not how it's Spanish it's a direct translation. I don't think it would be a realistic translation, but it's a direct translation word for each individual word, but that's not how you translate. But it is SOCKS. 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 It is what it is. So each word in Spanish directly translated. And then it spells socks.
Wow.
So he would say, I don't remember, maybe he did say this or didn't say this, but I think he at one point or another said, don't forget your socks.
That's deep.
Well, I just realized how deep it was.
That's deep.
The older I get, the more I realize how wise my dad is.
Yeah, man. Some of them been around the block a few times more than others, and everybody has tidbits to share. You know what I mean? Regardless of how old they must be, or how much more older they may be than me, or how much younger they may be of me, because I don't believe in age. So it's just what it is.
It's really cool, actually, when you stop thinking of age as a level of success or maturity or literally anything. Correct. Age means absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
More or less, as an adult, you don't change on the inside. And Gary Vee talks about that. He's like, the way you feel right now at 21, 31, because he largely in part speaks to those age ranges, is how you're going to feel when you're 41, 51, and 61. You have so much time, and you're going to feel the same way. So don't get caught up with being hard on yourself for not having gotten further ahead.
Correct.
Because there's so much freaking time to do more.
Correct.
As little as much time as we have, it's just a flip of the script on how you view that. You can either think this is a blink, life is a blink, and it really is nothing when you compare it to eternity. But we don't have to do that, because eternity is a moment. It's right now. And you flip the script, it's the exact opposite, and it makes life long.
Yes.
It makes life long, and the ability to see that difference is I think, a huge level of maturity, or a huge indicator of maturity.
Agreed.
So, Eric, this has been a fantastic podcast. Like I said, I was really excited to speak with you on all these various topics and get some information and value on tape. And we're just about out of time, but I wanted to ask you one last question, which was like, what is some of the content that you consume? It doesn't have to be social media. Like, what kind of books do you read? What kind of you don't watch the news.
No.
But what kind of content do you consume that helps you maintain your peace and help you grow? Because it's a constant leveling up process. What's helping you level up? Are you hanging out with people and you're consuming what they're consuming? What is it? What kind of stuff are you consuming?
So a lot of stuff that I consume, number one, is nature.
Yeah. Yeah, you have your own gardening podcast. Not podcast, gardening Instagram. That's yes. Right. That is, and now that I think about that, that's really amazing. Like, you're going to have so much experience from source, from God, just sitting in the garden.
Yeah. Hence the Garden of Eden, right?
Wow. Okay, so gardening, and that's huge. So, anything else?
And I bring that up because don't forget to ground your energy.
Yeah.
Like we're huge energy centers. Like our brain, to my understanding, has enough electromagnetic frequency that we could power a house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I share that to ground your energy. Go walk in the grass bare feet. To ground, that's so, and I say that because
let's say that again, because that's really significant. People don't realize how we are walking batteries.
Yes,
extremely powerful.
Oh,
it's not like we're just walking around without frequencies and I'm not saying the right words, but we're extremely powerful batteries.
Yeah,
like that Matrix stuff with the batteries is like some real stuff.
Very real.
And just remember that, go ahead. You're talking about grounding.
And so I say that to say, and that helps when you start grounding your energy, that helps create that balance within self, that you don't feel like you're haywired, right? Mm-hmm. Or just too much going on. And
you actually not introduced me to it, because I was aware of the practice. I just I never started it. And that since a few weeks ago, when you asked me if I had been grounding and doing that, I started doing it. I haven't been keeping up with it as much as I want to. But when I was doing it daily, oh my God, it made a big difference. It made a huge difference. And then I started watching videos on it, and like, it made sense. Like, apart from the woo-woo wording that some people use about it.
Sure.
The actual act of it and doing it myself made a huge, huge impact on me.
Yeah. And that's a part of, so that's something that I consume as my own daily routine, right? Because I could easily go there and here and there and here and there in regards to somebody else's content, but until you develop your own, routine, like, you best, I say to myself. And with me knowing myself best, I start off with grounding, because the dream state is a very, very interesting place. And, coming out of that, especially, understanding the aspects and importance of meditating, to just, understand self, go within self. For me, that's what meditation is about. It's not about more so, quieting the mind. It's about calming the mind, and back to the realizing what thoughts are thinking you, right? And recognizing those as thoughts, instead of you thinking it or you talking to yourself, because it's really not. It's subconscious programming, but that's another topic of conversation.
Indeed.
Also, I consume a lot of frequency music. I like to call it, like
binaural
beats, theta waves, alpha waves, gamma rays.
Yeah,
waves.
When you walked in today, you had music going, and it was it was like the kind of meditation music you hear when you go to the spa or something.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love that kind of stuff. I go to sleep to it.
Yeah.
I'll put it on and go to sleep to it. I'll fall asleep to one with the with a theta wave mix with affirmations, positive affirmations. Usually just a person on there just over and over for hours saying positive affirmations.
Yeah. And that's key.
And I know it's speaking to my subconscious because I'm listening to it while I'm sleeping.
Yes. And in that regards, that relates to, some of the ancient texts I consume, which people call hieroglyphs. It was written in stone for a reason. And I mean, to my knowledge, stone doesn't really go. It doesn't deteriorate fast. It stays around for a very long time.
Yeah. Don't they say artwork needs to last for several thousand years to be like actually valuable? Yeah.
That's what they say. But, something else I'll share in that regards is that Gucci, Prada, Fendi, Louis came out expensive.
Yeah.
They didn't come out cheap and then raise their prices. No, they started off.
That's really interesting.
Exactly. Top tier pricing. And then they
established the brand.
That's it.
And they stayed the same. They stayed expensive no matter what.
Stayed expensive. Wow. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
I've never thought of that. I realized that. Wow.
So you know your worth, know your value. So another book, Traction. That's that book, and that book was presented to me by my business partner, in which that helps you understand that just because you start off doing all the different parts of your business, don't mean you need to forever do every part of that business. So in other words, you need to turn certain parts of your business into rocks and pass those rocks on. Find someone to actually take those rocks on. So therefore you're not to say burdened by it, but yet you moved on from it.
Right.
So Traction is a book I read. The book Coming Forth by Day, that's ancient text, which some people call the Book of the Dead. Well, the Book of the Dead was translated is a translation of the book Coming Forth by Day. And the reason why it's coming forth by day is because the sun grows everything. The sun deals with everything that grows, right? If it doesn't get sunlight, like I was talking earlier in the podcast, that if you put a garden in the middle of the woods and it doesn't get sunlight, you're not going to reap the fruits of that labor. So, so sunlight is what is essential for us as well. Meditation, I think I said that. And acknowledging everybody, not
everyone's
to say
my teacher.
Everybody. And not to say you need to say hi to everybody, but if you make eye contact with another human, smile at them.
Yeah.
Because you never know how far that smile will go.
Yeah.
You don't know, that smile may prevent that person from doing something to themselves.
Right.
But that also smile may put that person in a position that you smiled at to smile at other people.
Yep.
And they pay it forward.
It's a chain reaction.
Positive energy.
Energy on energy.
You put out, you get back what you put out.
Yep. Odanov, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's been fantastic. And I knew that we would get some value on tape. And hopefully if you're listening and that camera's still rolling, I want to say thank you for listening up to this point. You are amazing. And I appreciate you. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. It makes a big difference. I have to have 1,000 subscribers to get this thing anywhere. So help me out. Let's get to 1,000. Let's get some people living the life that they dream about living. I'm doing it. Odanov's doing it. You can do it too. My name is Joshua Yankovic, and this is The Entrepreneur.